So when you're feeling tired or a bear looks at you wrong, grab a can of Grizzly Rage. Grizzly Rage. Go fight a fucking bear.
Hi folks, welcome back to the BSC Home Shopping Network. Chris Kringle here. Just wanted to update everyone in case you're still trying to call in that our last item, Blake's Way Muscle Builder, has now completely sold out. Now, as you know, we are in our countdown to Christmas, so we are bringing you items that would make great gifts at incredible prices, the way only BSC can. Our next item, and you guys are gonna love this one, our next item is a subscription to VHS on tape. How about that, huh? I mean, you asked and we listened. Now, the normal retail price for this item is $49.99 per year. But for our very special BSC shoppers, we are going to cut that price in half. That's right, folks. If you call right now, you can get a subscription to VHS on tape for half the retail price. And because it's Christmas and we're feeling generous here at BSC, you know what we're going to do? We're also going to make it a lifetime subscription. That's right, folks. If you call in right now and order this, and the item number is MR708090, not only are you getting half off the retail value, and that alone is a terrific deal, but you're also getting upgraded from a yearly subscription to a lifetime subscription. But you have to call now because these are going to go fast. And folks, I mean, this is the perfect gift for, well, just about anybody, really. I mean, you get horror, you get comedy, you get tons of sarcasm, and to top it off, you get an incredibly attractive host as well. Folks, there really is something for everyone here. Now, if you want... Oh, I'm sorry. My producer's telling me something. No, that can't be right. That has to be some sort of mistake. Wow. Okay. Folks, my producer Dale just told me, and I can't believe we're gonna do this. Are you ready for this? If you call in right now and order this VHS on tape subscription, item number MR708090, you are going to be getting it for an incredibly low price of $0. I can't even believe I just said that. Folks, these are going to go fast, and we only have a limited number available. And again, I mean, these are great for anyone in your life. I've given them to my parents, my siblings, my mailman. Heck, I even gave one to a guy at a grocery store last week. And again, folks, the normal retail value for this is $49.99 a year. And with our countdown to Christmas special, you are getting a lifetime, not a yearly, a lifetime subscription for $0. Folks, to get this deal, you have to call now because, like I said, these are going to go fast. If I was you, I would definitely call and get it at least one of these and make somebody's Christmas. No, their life so much better with this gift. Ho, 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 Merry Christmas! What's up, everyone? Do you like my Santa hat? I mean, I did have an adult-sized Santa hat, but I can't find it anywhere. So I went out and stole this one from a kid down the street, and that's why it's a little snug, we'll say. So, I mean, it looks ridiculous, but damn it, I wanted to be festive. Also, check out my sweater. I love this thing. Holiday Ostrich is judging you. Well, happy holidays, everybody. And since it's Christmas time, I would like to take a moment and talk about what a terrible song Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is. We all know this song, and the message it sends is just awful. Rudolph was created by Robert L. May in 1939 for a coloring book for Montgomery Ward. Alright, no issues there. People don't really remember coloring books. But then Johnny fucking Marks comes along, who happens to be Robert May's brother-in-law, and adapts the story into a song. Then he gets Gene Autry to sing it, and it becomes a classic. A classic story of people being assholes to somebody because they're different. That is, until it helps them out. They used to laugh and call him names. They never let him join their reindeer games? Sounds like a bunch of dicks to me. But after he steps up to Santa's request and helps them do their jobs, and does the jobs none of their normal non-red-nosed asses could do, then oh, how the other reindeer loved him. I think a more fitting ending would have been like something out of Carrie. Rudolph, you're awesome, screw those other reindeer. Well, today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. So, normally I do reviews for horror movies, but today I'm doing a non-horror movie. That's right, I'm going to try this out and kind of see how it goes. If it goes well, I might see about kind of sprinkling these in here and there. Today we're going to be taking a look at one I'm sure you're all very excited about, Santa with Muscles. Oh yeah. Santa with Muscles came out on November 8th, 1996 and runs for 1 hour and 37 minutes. It was written by Jonathan Bond, Fred Matta, and Dory Raymond. It was directed by John Merlowski. I'm sure you've seen some of his other works that includes Richie Rich's Christmas Wish, Zombie Hamlet, and Freeway Killer. A good mix there. The plot for this movie is that a selfish millionaire ends up getting amnesia and tries to help save an orphanage, while dressed as Santa, and hilarity ensues. So if you're ready to dive into some holiday cheer, let's get into the movie that is Santa with Muscles. The movie starts off with a little girl writing a letter to Santa and telling him about
There's this really, really bad man named Ebner Frost.
before we get the title card. The little girl goes on to say that her town is in trouble because people are moving away because Mr. Frost is being so mean to them, and that he's trying to take away the orphanage that she's at, and nobody can stop him. That's when we see Elizabeth, played by Aria Curzon. She went on to be the voice of Ducky in several of the Land Before Times movies. Then we cut to somebody outside stealing their Christmas tree, and apparently life as an orphan has already crushed her spirit because she doesn't even really react to this. She asks Santa for help and says,
P.S. I hope you're really out there, Santa.
as we meet, oh hell yeah, brother, Blake Thorne, played by Hulk Hogan. You probably recognize him from his other work, Mackenzie's Island, Suburban Commando, and Shadow Warriors. Oh, and he was also a professional wrestler for a few years too. We see Blake sneaking around a mansion before kicking the shit out of this guy and giving us a great one-liner.
Never stop to smell the roses.
As he goes to grab a golden box, he gets attacked by a motley crew of characters, including a chef, a chauffeur, and then this guy who's one of my favorite characters in this movie. He doesn't have any lines, but seriously, I love this guy. We then find out that all of these guys work for Blake. When he asks how he did, they all say he did great, and he responds with,
Weasels, if you guys are bucking for a Christmas bonus, forget it.
to help show how he's kind of Scroogey. We then see that apparently he's rich because of a supplement line he has. After he gets called to the front door, we find out that he has some rules called Blake's Rules. Actually, a lot of them.
What number are we up to now?
385.
Then his assistant says a nonprofit asks if they could use the mansion for a fundraiser, to which he says,
If you give them a taste, they want more. Send them some of those carbohydrate bars that aren't selling anyway.
before heading up to go play paintball. Oh, the life of a millionaire. After he cheats and shoots before the game starts, his team drives away and we meet Officer Hinckley, played by none other than Clint Howard. He's been in a ton of stuff, including Ice Cream Man, Tix, and Salty. As he's playing with his radar gun, Blake's team blasts by and Hinckley calls it in.
You must be militia or terrorists. Send everything you got. I'm rolling.
One of Blake's rules is never surrender, so they don't pull over. We cut to Lakeview Mall and see a donation table for the orphanage from the beginning. Cut back to the car chase and Blake decides to bail and go hide in the mall. Well, I'm sure that all of his non-millionaire friends that are still in the car chase with the police, they'll be fine. We find out that the mall Santa didn't show up and there's a cool 50 in it for the elf who finds one. We see that one of the elves is talking to this guy, and the music does a good job of letting us know that he's a bad guy, but he's not actually someone that we have to worry about. His name is Dr. Blight, and he's played by Steve Valentine. He was in I'm in the Band and Crossing Jordan. We find out that the elf owes Mr. Frost some money, and also Dr. Blight is Mr. Frost's personal physician. He's asking someone if they're comfortable before seeing this guy. While hanging, we meet Mr. Frost, played by Ed Begley Jr. Now, a lot of people might recognize him from St. Elsewhere, but for me, he'll always be Stan Sitwell from Arrested Development. Great show, by the way. He comes on the TV and says he hopes the guy will reconsider selling his shoe store. To persuade the guy, Frost brings out his goon squad, which includes Dr. Flint, played by Kevin West. He was in Urban Decay and Killer Tomatoes Eat France. Then we have Dr. Vile, who loves methane gas. He's played by Kai Efron. He was in Flesh Suitcase. And finally, Dr. Watt, who has electric gloves. She's played by Diane Robin. She was in Back to Even and RoboCop. Cut back to Blake walking through the back of the mall when he sees the Santa costume and decides to change his duds. When he comes out, he runs into the cops, but obviously they don't recognize him. As he's walking away, they see a piece of his clothing sticking out, and then they recognize him. He runs away, and the cops can't find him, and we see he's hanging out in the trash chute. After the cops leave, the janitor dumps a Santa statue down, and it nails Blake in the head, and he takes a hell of a tumble. Then we meet the elf from earlier, Lenny. He's played by Don Stark. Now, some of you might have seen him in that 70s show, but most of you probably recognize him from Evil Speak and 9.5 Ninjas. After Lenny steals Blake's wallet, we find out that he's
Blake Thorne? Richest man in 10 states?
After Lenny does a happy dance, Blake wakes up and can't remember who he is or what he was doing. And Lenny tells him that he's Santa. Blake doesn't believe him, but Lenny shows him how he's dressed and says, who else could he be? And Blake ends up believing him. I mean, to be fair, that is some pretty sound logic. Lenny leads him out to the kids waiting in the mall, and we get cuts of Blake talking to kids and getting their pictures taken. As this is happening, Lenny hits up an ATM to try and clean out Blake's accounts, but it requires a fingerprint that he doesn't have. So he leaves empty-handed. Then a couple of jackasses decide to steal the money being collected for the orphanage. A little girl sees them and calls for Santa. Blake comes over, and the guys make the mistake of thinking that they're tougher than Hulkamania. And, it doesn't end well for them. So they get beat down, and in the process, Mr. Obvious shows up in the crowd.
Watch out, it's not a candy cane!
Watch out, there's a couple of guys trying to beat you up. As people are helping him clean up, Blake sees a sign for the orphanage and decides,
They need help, Lenny. We should go.
so the crowd follows them out, and I love the lady to their right in the blue top. Blake wonders where his sleigh is, since he's Santa, and Lenny says it's in the shop. Cut to Mr. Frost and Dr. Blight, and we see that Mr. Frost is a bit of a germaphobe. Also, we find out that the guy has been convinced to sell his shoe store. Apparently, tickle torture was enough for this guy to give up on his lifelong dream of running a shoe store. Then we see that Mr. Frost has been collecting several businesses surrounding the orphanage. Cut to Dr. Blight and the Goon Squad going to the orphanage, where they are fixing to do some damage, and I think that's an awesome sign. I mean, really, if you are adopting, in reality you are shopping for a kid. It's funny because it works on multiple levels. Then we meet Dr. Blight's crush, Leslie, played by Robin Curtis. She was in Star Trek 3 and Blood Fist 6. And let's be honest, I mean, the series really went downhill after Blood Fist 5. As Blake and Lenny show up, we see the Goon Squad is tearing down a statue. This guy runs after them and somehow gets in front of them, and the entire Goon Squad is emphatically on board with upping this vandalism charge to straight up vehicular manslaughter. And just when this guy is about to be murdered, their truck stops. And we see the reason is Blake. Hell yeah, brother. That's what you can do when you got 24-inch pythons. The Goon Squad takes off and the orphans run over. The adults thank him and ask for his name, and he says,
I guess you can call me Santa.
They offer him some dinner and head inside. Once inside, Elizabeth goes to get something for Blake, and we meet the other kids. We have Sarah, who you might recognize as young Mila Kunis. And it's really too bad her acting career never really took off after this. I was really pulling for her too. We also briefly meet Taylor, played by Adam Wiley. He was in Kindergarten Cop and Child's Play 2. We find out that Leslie runs the orphanage. We also meet Clayton, played by Garrett Morris. He's been in a lot of things, but probably known for Saturday Night Live. He's 83 and he's had 3 projects come out this year alone. We also find out he takes care of the orphanage. Elizabeth comes back with cookies, and even though Blake can't remember who he is, he remembers what foods he shouldn't eat.
I mean, are these good for you with all the fat? Is this low fat?
Which I did think was funny. Cut to dinner, and they offer to let them stay the night. I don't know if that's the best move, offering 2 guys who you just met to stay the night with a bunch of kids, but what do I know? I don't run an orphanage. We also find out that there's usually more kids at the orphanage.
We're the leftovers.
Well, yeah, buddy, with that attitude, nobody wants to spend their money on a downer. Everyone heads off to bed, and Blake and Lenny borrow some pajamas. The next morning, Blake comes out without his Santa costume on, and to keep Elizabeth's head from exploding, he says he just wears it for deliveries. We see that Blake made it in the newspaper, and when Leslie says he looks familiar, we see that they're eating his cereal. Lenny quickly covers it up, and we get a nice PSA.
Recycling, kids. It's just the right thing to do.
He's right.
I agree, it is the right thing to do. Then Lenny gets the idea that he can get Blake's fingerprint off of his glass in a scene that I do think is pretty funny.
Thank you for doing business with us and have a nice life in South America.
Elizabeth then explains what the Santa rules are, which are much nicer than Blake's and a lot less of them too. Alright buddy, that right there is why you're still at the orphanage. Then we see that Sarah made some alterations to the Santa costume. Cut to Lenny trying to get some cash, and it turns out he needs fingerprints from the other hand. As he's breaking down, the Goon Squad shows up and throws him in the back of the ice cream truck. Mr. Frost tells him that he needs
That Santa with muscles out of there.
and Lenny needs to get him out of there. Lenny tries to talk Blake into leaving, but he says no. While everyone is hanging out, Clayton tells Blake,
I'm proud of you, son. You finally made something of yourself after all.
"Oh, I wonder what that's about." Then a statue head comes through the window, and we see the Goon Squad is there again. After some shit talking, we see that Dr. Blight has some good moves. But eventually, Blake still comes out on top. As everyone is celebrating, we see that the wet blanket Taylor is gone. About time, if you ask me. And just by seeing his Walkman, Blake somehow knows where he is. Maybe his amnesia comes with psychic abilities. I mean, I just assumed Taylor was down the street trying to depress a dog. Cut to Mr. Frost's house, and after Lenny and Blake get past his security, we see Taylor is about to Dennis the Menace it up when Blake stops him and gives him some real talk.
I'm only tough when I have to be.
The others head back, and Blake investigates and sees Mr. Frost's map. Cut to Blake asking what's under the orphanage, and everybody takes a guess.
Water and power lines.
Telephone cables?
Sure.
Rats.
Until Taylor finally carries his own weight,
The clubhouse.
to which Leslie casually says,
Oh, the old catacombs underneath the church. Yeah, the kids use it as a clubhouse.
"Oh, there's also some parents looking to adopt 3 kids down there as well, but I just didn't think it was pertinent information." And the fact that she uses the word catacombs, how in the hell would that not be the first thing you say when asked what's under the orphanage? Instead, you brought telephone cables to the table? Terrible, Leslie. Take a lap. Taylor also throws in,
And there's a big vault door down there.
so as they head down to the catacombs, Blake asks Clayton what's in the vault, and he says it hasn't been opened as long as he's been there. Damn, Clayton, you knew there was a vault under the orphanage, and you said power lines? I'm starting to think you guys deserve to have your orphanage taken away. When they get down to the vault, we find out that the kids have been able to figure out 3 of the 4 numbers. And even though they're kids, I'm still gonna say it. What the hell? They all knew this was down here? Everybody, take a lap. Just terrible. At least Lenny didn't know. That might have been too much. After the kids enter their numbers, Blake is somehow able to guess the last number. I'm still leaning towards amnesia with psychic abilities. Once open, we see that it looks really cool inside. I do really like this shot of them walking in. I think the lighting is very, very cool. And Sarah says she knows what they are.
I know what these are. These are piezoelectric crystals. They must be worth millions.
Alright, I'm very, very confident Sarah has absolutely no idea what they're actually worth. When Taylor drops one of them, this happens. As the others leave, Blake tries to figure out how he knew the last number. We also find out he truly thinks he's Santa.
Why am I not at the North Pole then? And how do all the kids in the world get their presents tomorrow?
That's when Lenny tells him,
See this? You were wearing this when I found you. How'd you get blood on you? I don't know. I don't ask.
God damn it. Lenny, you knew about the catacombs too? I've lost all faith in this group. And here Lenny seems like he's being sincere, but he still doesn't tell Blake who he really is, so... Once back upstairs, we see that Dr. Blight has shown up again. Blake comes in and chases him up to the bell tower.
Watch out, he's got a candy cane!
Once up there, they fight, and after Blake takes down the doctor, this randomly happens, and we see that Blake now remembers who he is again. We fade to Blake waking up in his bed and thinking it was just a dream until he sees this. We find out that the garbage men found him and brought him home. Blake tries to call in Leslie, but the goon squad messes with the call and makes him think she's pissed at him. Cut back to the orphanage and we see that everyone is depressed that Blake is gone. Just then, the goon squad shows up with Mr. Frost, and they take them down to the catacombs. And I do really like the fact that Mr. Frost is going to put the kids to work in the mines. I mean, he thought ahead on this, he even got the little pickaxes. When the kids won't give him the combo, Dr. Flint gets to work on getting the vault open. Switch to seeing that Blake is so depressed he doesn't even want to fight his cook. Lenny then calls him and lets him know what's going on. Blake then rounds up his employees and they head out to the orphanage. On the way they pass Hinckley and a car chase ensues. To ditch some of the cops, they toss out some of Blake's whey products. When they get cornered, this cop decides the situation calls for a bazooka, and when Blake takes off, this happens. Now that might be considered excessive force. Once they get to the orphanage, they're still on the high from the police chase, so they decide to start murdering people. Blake goes and saves the children from this guy, and I have to admit, I really like Dr. Vile's singing. I mean, that's how I sing too, so it's very relatable. For me. Then they stink out Dr. Vile. As they're looking around, Dr. Watt grabs Blake and he gets ready to throw down when this guy walks in. And for those of you who don't recognize him, that's Ed Leslie, aka Brutus the Barber Beefcake. One heck of a wrestler. Blake makes short work of him, and when Dr. Watt tries to leave, Lenny shows up and murders her as well. Lenny then comes clean and gives Blake back his wallet, and I love this next part.
Well, all you had to do was knock.
Because that's exactly what I was thinking too. Next we find out via Clayton that Blake grew up at the orphanage and Mr. Frost was his best friend. Oh, okay. Leslie is looking for the kids when she runs into Dr. Blight. She pretends to be into him so they can trap him in the freezer. Blake heads down to the vault and damn, are those human skeletons? I didn't even notice that before. So Leslie was letting the kids have their clubhouse where there are skeletons? Okay, now I definitely think this orphanage should be shut down. Blake gets Frost's attention by calling him a name he hasn't heard since he was a kid, which makes Frost realize who Santa is. Dr. Flint gets the vault open and Frost and Blake run in. They play hide to go seek and they talk about how different their lives were growing up. Finally, they find each other and have a sword fight that gives a pretty good light show. Frost ends up getting the upper hand and Leslie comes to his rescue. Then the crystals start glowing and they realize... It's gonna blow! Everyone gets out and then the house sort of implodes. We see that the goon squad has been arrested, so I'm guessing nobody actually died, which is good because otherwise that would be a very different tone to this movie. We also see that Frost has been arrested too. After celebrating that fact, they realize that they don't have a home anymore and they don't know what they're gonna do. And that's how the movie ends. Not really what I expected for the ending of a kids movie, but I like it. Merlowski decided to take a chance and say, screw your happy ending. This is real life, son. Okay, that's not how the movie ends. Blake says he has an idea, and we see that they are living at Frost's place now, along with a shit ton more kids. Man, this town has a lot of orphans. We find out that they can see the prison from Frost's house, and then we get that happy ending we were all waiting for. The end. And now for some fun facts. Apparently the original author's draft was altered so much that he sued to remove his name from the project. One of the executive producers was Jordan Belfort. You might recognize that name from Leonardo DiCaprio playing him in The Wolf of Wall Street. Ed Leslie wrestled under the premise of being Hulk Hogan's brother for some time. I think it was a stretch for Leslie to be in charge of 3 kids, since she was letting them play around with skeletons. So seeing how many kids were at the Frost house at the end, I definitely think the state should step in and shut her down. They never explained what's going on with the vault. Why was it there? Who put it there? Well, it's just so many questions involved in that. So, would I recommend Santa with muscles?
Yeah!
I mean, you kind of have an idea of what you're getting into from the title. So for what it is, it's not that bad. Don Stark actually does a pretty good job, and let's be honest, Hogan does too. I mean, for being a professional wrestler, he's not bad in this. Again, know your expectations going in, and I think it could be a fun movie to watch. If you do want to watch it, I'll put a link in the description where you can check it out for free, at least at the time of this recording. What did you think? Have you seen Santa with Muscles? Did you like it? Let me know in the comments. In my last video, I looked at Mausoleum, and I'll put a link up so you can check that out too. Well, that's going to do it for this one. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope everyone has a great Christmas/New Year's. And I'll see you again in 2021.